And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Bud Elliott. That's Danny Kanell. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/Cover3 and everywhere you get your podcast on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, aka the Cover 3 tailgate, where at 9:37 a.m. Actually, let's do this one first. 9:53 a.m. Our friend Paul. Let's get mean. You've done your dream golf foursome of college football coaches. If you saw that you were paired with what three coaches for 18 holes, would you either flake out and not show up for or hate every second of?
We can't do this now. We're going to be sitting with some of these coaches at Big Ten Media Days. Like we can't just put them on blast right before we're going to be sitting in front of them.
I would not want to be paired with Trey Lamb at Tulsa. I would not want to be paired with Hugh Freeze. And who else is really good? I don't want to be paired with any coaches that are really good. I would rather be paired with three coaches who are kind of bad. So at least that way I've got a chance. Whereas if I'm sitting out there with a guy who's a 6 handicap, I'm screwed. I'm not going to have any fun. I'm going to get my head caved in for 4 hours.
Is it competitive or fun? Because the dream golf foursome wasn't competitive. That was like, who am I going to enjoy? I mean, maybe you're going to get competitive just because you're getting competitive on the course. But I mean, you got to think that anybody who's just going to be a total wet blanket, checking out when things don't go well. I mean, I got to think that what coaches have had like late season collapses, like haven't been able to overcome adversity. That's going to be somebody who's in their phone, by the 13th hole. They're just not even interacting or paying attention anymore. That's what I think of when I'm looking for the individual that I don't necessarily want.
So is Sonny Dykes the guy that says he's going to play 18, but he dips after 9?
Yes.
There's one. If Clausen was still around, he'd be on my list because he hates me. So I put Clausen on the list.
Dave Clausen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sonny Dykes, Dave Clausen. Let's see, who else?
I think it'd probably be awkward if Ryan Day and I were playing 18 holes together. I don't think, so maybe Ryan.
I could see that.
Yeah. There could be some like for Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier, just the rivals.
Every time you missed the putt, I'd be like, hot seat.
Would you want to play with Harbaugh?
No.
Again,
I don't know. I don't know if I could deal with Jim for 4.5 hours.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Jim
for
20
minutes,
years. Yeah.
Screw the 4.5 years, which was always his window. You don't even want 4.5 hours.
It's not an act. Yeah.
Harbaugh's a great call there because then he's getting off and he's talking about like the red-bellied woodpecker that's over on the tree behind the green. He's getting all fascinated with all the aspects of the environment, not necessarily out there playing golf.
Screaming who's got it better than us every freaking hole.
Hey, that's good vibes. I would take that along the way. Any other ones?
No.
Somebody in the tailgate mentioned Lincoln Riley.
Cristobal would be on his phone recruiting the entire time, for sure.
Yeah, that's I could see that there's a lot of college football coaches who think that golf is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like I could be more efficient, which is so funny because the king of efficiency is Nick Saban, and Nick Saban loves to play golf.
I think I could play with Lincoln Riley. I think that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Paul Christ?
Yeah. I think I don't really think there's a lot of coaches out there who I would consider to be such gigantic a-holes that I wouldn't want to play with. It's just that some of them might have, personalities that just kind of grate on you, kind of like we were just talking about with Harbaugh, or they just might be way too good for me.
Todd Graham.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to play. Watch out for cheating.
He's leaving after 3 holes. He's walking off the green on 3 to go to the tee box on 9.
He'll text you. I'm gone.
Danny, I really like your Todd Graham cheating allegations. You get back to the cart and he's giving me, put me down for a 4.
Yes.
Then he's up there. I can see the guy who he charged his players for a vending machine allegedly. Wasn't that part of the Hawaii experience? Am I wrong about that? At least the story or the folklore around how bad things got.
Yes.
Yeah. Bo Pelini.
I think
just because some coaches are hardos, though, like perception, what you see, it doesn't mean they wouldn't be good on a golf course. You know, like I think Bo Pelini might actually be fun, but I don't know. You know, but like I
mean,
agree.
The
like
whole
most
clan
coaches
might be a hell of a time on the golf course. Actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Might be some club throws in there too, which is always funny.
Which is
if you want to play with Belichick, that's a good one. He might not be the best.
No,
does Belichick golf?
I don't think he does. That's why I don't think it'd be I would maybe not want to play with him. It's a good one.
That's another part of the how's Bill Belichick going to do with the song and dance? Like you can't tee it up with donors out there at you can't tee it up with donors and be able to have the big money fundraising thing. Yes, Scott Frost. Sorry, I don't know that I want
to play with Fleck. Maybe
PJ Fleck.
But like he seems very much like ball like all about ball,
you
know. So kind of in that Mario category.
Congratulations to PJ Fleck on your new contract extension.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to make it. I wasn't going to make it a huge news topic, but you bring him up. Good job. All right, out till 2030. He's been very consistent, always winning those bowl games. Lots to get to here as we are going to continue to take questions from the big old bag of mail, which, as I've said, has expanded. Used to be our Apple Podcast listeners. You gave us a 5-star review, and in that review, you put your question. We threw it in the big old bag of mail. Well, now we are into the Spotify comments. We've got some questions from our Spotify audience as well, along with some Apple Podcast questions. We will be getting to Tom's perfect college football playoff plan. He has written about this. We have hinted at it. We have discussed it. We're going to actually dig into it. And for those of you who saw the exquisite thumbnail, great job, Mikey, on that one. Anytime that we can throw Tom in the midst of those two head coaches, we've really done something well.
I didn't see the thumbnail. Who is it? It's me and who?
It's Brian Kelly, Mike Gundy, and Tom Fornelli.
All right.
Let's go.
Three angry men.
Speaking of Mike Gundy, let's get things started with any further reaction to Big 12 Media Days. We got Deion Sanders talking about some bull junkie. We got Mike Gundy. He's kind of shying away from the idea that there's any pressure, but he agrees that 2025 is important. A few other comments and observations across the way. Danny, what stood out to you from day 2 of Big 12 Media Days?
So coming in, you said, what were you excited for? And I said, I was interested to hear from Coach Prime. Like he's always the one. And from the people that were there, they said it's just a difference. Like when he talks, when he walks in the room, it's like night and day between him, wanting to hear from him and the other coaches, which I totally understand. I'm sure you guys saw the clip by now, but the one where he calls out and says, we need a salary cap, right? He's going out there and he said, man, we want equal. I think he was trying to look for parity was the word he was looking for. But he said, it's not fair that, a school how are we supposed to compete with a school that has $25 million for their freshman class? And he says all this. Aren't we supposed to have a salary cap now?
Yeah, that's what the revenue sharing is.
It's a soft cap, though, because you've got NIL.
It is very much a soft cap. I just thought it was interesting because we're supposed to have one. And I think a lot of, people that just kind of casually paying attention and seeing the way the sport is going, they're like, oh, this is a good thing. Like 20.5, there's even a number to it. But if you're not really paying attention, you might feel like, oh, there is a salary cap. Like everyone's on a level playing field, even though we all know that there very much is not one. So I thought that was interesting from Coach Prime saying we need a salary cap. And he, said every other coach in here doesn't want to say it, but I'll say it. But I thought it was interesting because we're supposed to have one now.
Why wasn't he calling for one last year? Oh, he had kids on the team.
2 of them.
Kids is plural, Chip. Are coaches going to be part of that salary cap? Are we going to cap their salaries too? Because I feel like that's getting out of hand too. Coaches are making way too much money and it's impacting how much the players can make. So maybe we can put a salary cap in, but we include the head coach's salary into the salary cap. So if your coach is making $10 million a year, that goes against your cap.
Nope.
Oh, it happened.
Up.
All right. Got it.
All right.
Run it.
All right. All right. Because they StreamYard updated. We got to find it.
Coach Prime needs Texas Tech to do this. like your Mark was talking about how like they need to get multiple teams in the playoff and they need to win playoff games. You're not going to do that unless you acquire talent at the level that the playoff teams from other leagues are acquiring. And Texas Tech is the only hope for this league to get that level of talent because they're willing to spend. Unless Coach Prime has other sons I don't know about. So like, he should be praising Texas Tech. That's going to help this league be better. If they don't have that, they're going to get smoked in the next round of playoff stuff, which I know we'll talk about with Tom. But like, if you're 0-2 in barbecue all the time in the Big 12, I guarantee like these games are not going to be as competitive as Arizona State, Texas for the most part. Like, he should be praising it. They need at least one team that you can say, all right, if they get hot, they'll have a real chance to make a run at this thing.
I think he was. I think he was giving credit. I think that the salary cap was a big picture national thing. I don't think he was.
I thought he was talking about like taking a shot with a $25 million freshman thing because of what they paid for Ojo.
Yeah, I thought that Colorado has had schools that are not the big dogs come and like sniff around their roster and try to get players. And, some of it worked, some of it didn't. And Dion was definitely taken. I mean, to let you know of the.
And Tech stole their center after spring, right? So
right.
I thought that was why. Okay.
Yeah. There's as much like a big picture. Hey, how do you have the money to outbid us on this? I thought we had a salary cap here. That might be a piece of his. I mean, do you remember him looking into the camera and calling out Virginia of all places?
Virginia's got some money now.
So Virginia's got some money. He's like, don't come for my players, Virginia. I mean, that's Tony Elliott on the glow up right there. Tom, you make any? Where do you stand on Mike Gundy and sort of as we prepare for 2025?
It's an interesting spot because this is a time where he's been there for so long that you're not really like we've had instances where it's like, oh, Mike Gundy can be in trouble back even in the T. Boone Pickens era because there would sometimes be some tiffs between him and T. Boone that would lead to problems, but he's been there for so long and he's been so successful that you do wonder. It's been a terrible season, and I am of the opinion that the game maybe has passed him by a little bit as far as the way he wants to do things and how things are working and whether he can compete in that. But I think he deserves the chance given his time there to see if he can adapt to it or if he's willing to adapt to it. If he is, then I think given his track record, he'll be fine. If he doesn't, then I think it's very much we're going to have a new coach in Stillwater in the next year or two.
And they really have not fielded a good team in the portal era.
No.
They fielded a team that had a good record and was lucky as hell. And I'm fortunate they did. Like I had a pretty nice Oklahoma State ticket and hedged it out against Texas, thankfully, because Texas killed it.
That would be the 23 team where Ollie Gordon just sort of exploded.
Exactly.
Correct. And they were super lucky. Like they were not bad, but they were not like, I don't think that was one of the 15 best teams in the country. They had a record that suggests they were, but I don't think the actual resume and how the games played out really matched that. I just has Gundy shown any indication that they can have a good team in the transfer portal era? I don't really think so. 21 is Fiesta Bowl for them, but that was pre-portal.
Well,
2 years ago they were good.
No, I think they were just lucky. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't think they were actually good. I watched that team pretty intently every game because I had a nice ticket on them and like it was like, whew, roller. Okay, all right, survived to get. It just.
Just like I'm not only.
Like what did they finish SP Plus that year? Like 25th?
Well,
somewhere in that area.
But
they weren't like
21 is technically in the transfer portal era, but I do agree that it is nothing like the reality of the transfer portal that we saw as things very quickly, even after that, sort of exploded in terms of player movement, in terms of the NIL deals, and in terms of just sort of the free agency feel that college football has right now. That 21 team was kind of an Oklahoma State team.
Yeah.
The type that you have to be able to build up, then they've got to start over. Then they were supposed to build back up.
Second, by the way.
In 23?
Yeah.
They still had Spencer Sanders on that team. It was just.
So that's the bottom half team in the Power 5, 42nd. Barely bottom half. But I'm not trying to hate on Mike Gundy. I just haven't seen any indication that he can build a roster in this era.
He has at his time in front of the microphones at the Big 12 Media Days, he's pointing all the attention to Zane Flores and, admitting as much curiosity as all four of us and any Oklahoma State fans at home. It is unproven. He believes there is talent there. He believes he can be really good. So it's very surface level in terms of the, commentary. What do you think about Oklahoma State? Well, if Zane Flores is good, then we'll have potentially our first good quarterback, like really good quarterback since Spencer Sanders?
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too, is like if you think of where Oklahoma State in their, I guess, in their heyday under Gundy, like they were developing quarterbacks every single year. Like, and they were sending guys to the NFL. And there's just been a drought at that position where they have not really produced that guy. The offense is not what it had been for a while. Like we just talked about it. Their best teams in the last few years, 2023, 2021, were mostly led by their rushing offense. It wasn't really the quarterback doing most of the work. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Is the win total at 5.5? Does that sound right?
I believe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's different if T-Boone Pickens is still alive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, that program was lifted up. I mean, at their heyday, when they were on the cusp of making the BCS title game, that was T-Boone Pickens. And now we're seeing Texas Tech with a similar situation. They're all of a sudden thrust in the spotlight. So I do think it kind of gives you an example of what it means to have somebody that can financially back you.
I would say the only real question I would have to potentially counter, and I agree with you, I think it would be different, but we don't really know what T-Boone's stance was on paying
players.
T-Boone was old. A lot of those guys who are very old, were like never pay like I'm not paying a player type thing. Whereas Cody Campbell at Texas Tech is a young guy, so he understands here's how you win. T-Boone was like facilities, so I put my name on retaining Gundy every time Gundy flirted with Tennessee and wherever else. I don't know if T-Boone would have been cool with paying players. I don't know. They wouldn't. We don't know.
I think it would be different. I like the way you phrased that, Danny. I don't know exactly how it would be, but it would be different if the benefactor whose name is on the daggum stadium was still here. Then maybe the whole situation would play out a little bit differently. But yeah, very, very important season. 18 straight bowl seasons for the Oklahoma State Cowboys came to an end last year. And it was the fewest amount of wins in Mike Gundy's 2-decade tenure. So it looks like the bottom's fallen out because especially the projections indicate that they might not make a bowl again. But I use this on CBS Sports HQ. So, obviously I know all you guys watch all the time. I apologize to make you hear it again. If there are coaches who I would draft to take 11 strangers to go win a football game, Mike Gundy's a top 5 pick for me. So if he can do it, we'll see here in the 2025 season.
I'm so sick and tired of hearing you say that.
I know you are. I know that's because you've been dialed in. It doesn't matter whether it's like with Chris or Jacqueline or Mike Morgan. You're always taking it in. All right. Coming up on the other side, Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, spent some of his time doubling down, literally his words, double down, on his college football playoff stance. We'll get into his opinion, but then also Tom's perfect college football playoff expansion plan and your questions. Next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Go! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. Every one of these conference commissioners is going to have some time up at the microphone. Brett Yormark, among his many statements, he believes that the 5+11 model is the correct model for college football playoff expansion. 5 automatic bids for conference champions, 11 at-large bids. He believes that it will be a 16-team field when the college football playoff does expand in 2026. Those are all things that are obviously still on the table moving forward. We've talked a little bit about 5+11, 4-4-2-2-1-1 hike, all of the back and forth of the last couple months, but I thought that would be a good launching point for us to finally dig in on Tom's perfect plan. So, Tom, why don't you lay the table here?
Oh, hold on. I had to do a Google image search based on something Danny asked in the private chat. So you want me to just go into my playoff here?
Well, yeah, just like how did you start? Where did you want to start? What kind of playoff do you want to create?
I don't want to create a playoff at all, Chip.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out a way because there's so much going back and forth, and there was the idea originally of the 4 auto bids, and then there was, the other conferences that weren't really going to want it. And then the SEC changed its mind and went to the 5+11. And we all know why the SEC is suddenly on board with a 5+11, because they looked at the history and said, wait, why are we only giving ourselves 4 auto bids? We can get 6 damn teams in, because if you did the 5+11 model last year, guess what? The SEC would have had 6 teams in. The Big 12 would have had 1 still. Why Brett Yormark is so into this model, I'm not entirely sure. But my model is kind of a compromise, and there's a lot of parts to it I don't like myself. It's just I was trying to figure out something that would work and something that would improve all aspects of college football, in that not just the postseason, but it would also improve the regular season. Or improve might be the wrong word, but maintain some things. So essentially what I came to at the end, and we've discussed it a little bit here, it's a 16-team field in which the Big Ten and the SEC get 3 automatic berths.
Okay. So we're already in automatic berth territory. So Big gets 3. Okay.
SEC
I'm good with that, by the way.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
And the thing is, those automatic berths would be based on your conference record in the regular season. So every conference
overall
game,
record at all.
No, conference record. If you're 10-2 overall, but you're 9-3 overall, but you went 8-0 in the SEC, guess what? You're in. But you'll be playing 9 games now, by the way, because all the Power 4 conferences will be playing 9 games conference schedules, because those conference records now are what determine you get in, and it helps make sure that you play more teams, which will keep the schedule more balanced. But to people who will respond that that's crap and that's unfair that those conferences get auto bids, don't disagree at all from a competitive standpoint. But the truth is, if you look at the conferences as they're currently constructed and you go through the entire history of the college football playoff and further back, every single year the Big Ten and the SEC have had at least 3 teams in the top 16. It's just the way it works. So that's really not anything different. The big change to me is you cap conferences at 4 teams. So the Big Ten and the SEC can only get 4, which means now if you take it, and another one, I'm sorry, I skipped this. It's 6 automatic bids for conference champs. So the Power 4 plus the top 2 G5. So now you've got the 6 auto bids for the Big Ten and the SEC, but 2 of those are conference champs. So you add 4 more conference champs. So now we're at 10 teams. That leaves 6 at-large berths for Notre Dame, the ACC, the Big 12, or possibly another G5 team if one of them has a good enough season. And the purpose of this is, A, it gets everybody involved. So that way it's still a national sport. There is still national interest across all parts of the country, because everybody can sit there and say, we've got a chance to get in. And B, it leads to better games, because Oregon doesn't have to play Ohio State after a bye. Oregon will be playing Boise State or Memphis, whoever, the G5 team that gets in. And then in the second round, they might play another team that's like that. So if you looked at last year using the same formula, the first round would have been number 1 Oregon versus number 16 Army. And then in the second round, they would have played the winner of Indiana, Boise State. Now, if you're Oregon, would you rather have Army and then Indiana or Boise State or Ohio State for your first playoff game?
Yeah.
So it leads to better matchups down the line, which leads to a better product. So you've added more playoff games, and you're adding much better games to the late rounds when people are really going to be tuning in. And then the other one, going back, if you guys got questions, you want to just interrupt me so I'm not talking for 20 minutes straight, go for it.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah. So are you concerned, because the conference record determines these automatic bids, but you're still going to be playing a conference championship game?
No, you're not. No, you're not, Chip. Conference championship games are gone.
Whoa.
That's a big omission that you left out there.
I haven't gotten there. I haven't really gotten to the schedule yet. But that's a good question. I'm happy you asked it, because
because it's your conference. I was going to say, like, would you be disincentivized? Like, is there any punishment for conference championship games? So this is like almost, this is old school, because we are really only talking about your league record.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have ties, it's up to the league to determine who ends up winning the tiebreakers.
Yeah. The league, it's up to each individual league. They will set the parameters. Everybody will know what they are going in, period. But the purpose of getting rid of conference championships is kind of partially what you just mentioned, where there's 3 teams. You don't want to punish anyone for being in the conference championship, but also because we're starting the playoffs sooner. The season will be ending on January 1st. It won't be going into late January when the NFL playoffs are still raging on. That doesn't mean bowl games can't continue going on. Non-playoff bowls can go play whatever the hell they want. I don't care. But the playoff will be ending on New Year's. It will be New Year's Day. It will be a national holiday. We will watch it every single damn year. And then, but other parts of the schedule that I'd love to hear what you guys think. And I'll explain my reasoning for it is I've mentioned everybody's going to 9 games, but to be playoff eligible as a Power 4 member, you have to play 10 games a year against Power 4 competition. So you've got your 9 conference games, and you have to schedule 1 non-conference game against another P4 league. You will also schedule 1 non-conference game against a G5 league, and you will also schedule 1 against an FCS school, because those schools still need that money to help fund their departments, especially in this modern era where things are only going to get more expensive for them. And also because you're playing a lot of really difficult games. So just give yourself a bye. I think these teams will deserve it during the middle of the season. And you're getting 2 additional buys plus your FCS game. So that will help keep players healthy.
We're keeping the buys?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because the season's starting earlier too, bud.
I was thinking let's kill the buys, by the way. Not to change your plan, but like, if you have 105-man rosters, you don't need a bye. You have enough depth.
It puts a toll on the starters. That'll never pass.
I know, but like
travel too with these coast-to-coast leagues. When you're sending Rutgers to UCLA, it'd be really nice to be able to throw an off week on either the front end or the back end of that.
So you'd play those 3 non-conference games, and I think part of this is, or part of the more interesting aspects of this is, if your playoff, the automatic berths in the AC or in the Big Ten and the SEC are based on nothing but conference record, it kind of leads to a free roll in non-conference. You can schedule a huge team, and if you lose, it's not going to harm your ability to reach the college football playoff because you can still win your auto bid. But if you win and you don't finish in the top 3, it's like added insurance, because that's going to look really good on your resume if you're one of the teams fighting for that at-large bid. And that applies both to the ACC and the Big 12 and all the G5, because if you're a G5 school and a Power 4 league is forced to play you and you beat them, that's a huge boost to your resume and your ability to get into the college football playoff if you aren't one of the conference champions. So that's where that comes in. Thoughts?
Let me get the numbers correct again. So was it 3-3-2-2?
It's 3 the SEC, 3 the Big Ten, and then there's 6 conference champs, one of which will be the SEC and the Big Ten. So there's 4 conference champions outside those 2, plus the 6 in those 2. So that's 10 automatic berths pretty much every year, leaving 6 at-larges.
So the ACC and the Big 12 are just relegated.
One.
They are basically relegated to American Athletic Conference Pac-12 status.
Yeah. But they're going to get 2 teams in, unless you think that the American and the Mountain West are going to have better teams than the ACC and the Big 12 do. Like last year, let's see, last year the ACC would have had Clemson, Miami, and SMU in.
Yeah,
that's 3
I think
teams.
that's fair.
Yeah. Big 12 still only had 1. The Big 10 still only had 4. Yeah. So it's I think for the ACC in particular, this is a pretty good deal, especially now with the way you're doing the revenue sharing, where you're going to be doing it based off of television ratings. I think it works out pretty well for the ACC. And I also think the Big 12 most years will get 2 teams in. Now there's also the Notre Dame equation of this, and Notre Dame does not have to join a conference, but it is not getting special treatment either. We're not going to bend over backwards for them. They have to play by the same rules as everybody else. They have to play 10 Power 4 opponents every year if they want to be eligible. If they don't, then they just aren't eligible that year. And that might seem like a lot, but Notre Dame is playing 10 Power 4 conference opponents this year. It's really nothing out of the ordinary for them. It's just going to keep things going. And it also incentivizes them to keep their rivalries with some certain schools going. Whether they want to keep their ACC deal or not, Chip, you guys, that's up to them. It's up to the ACC.
I mean, if you're Notre Dame, the answer is absolutely, because you get power conference credit for playing the bottom tier. You're guaranteed out of those 5 games to get at least a couple against teams that are at the bottom tier of the power conferences.
Yeah. And the next major change, we're starting the season earlier. We start on Labor Day weekend now because the television networks love having that long Labor Day weekend before the NFL season begins. They love starting on Thursday and then getting to go a game on Sunday and Monday as well. But we're going to be starting the season. If we were using this year, instead of August 23rd, which is when the first games of the year will be played, like week 0, we're starting it on August 14th.
Woo!
I think that's a non-starter for me. Like I don't want to go to games. Like I wouldn't go to a game in Tallahassee to open the year unless it's against like literally like Bama, Georgia, Ohio State level. It's just not like even if you're playing at night, like the tailgating experience in that kind of weather sucks, to be honest. Also, like the students aren't on campus then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my counter.
Okay.
Are you telling me that the temperature on August 13th in Tallahassee is noticeably different than the temperature on August 23rd?
I'm telling you the difference in August 23rd is noticeably different than September 23rd, which is when your like 3rd and 4th games will be occurring in this scenario compared to the original, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it gives you more of this schedule in weather that you really don't want to be in. I think that would be my issue. Also, like this turn, and I think you want pushback on this, I assume. This turns every school into how Northwestern is, where you're playing a couple games to start the year where there's no students on campus. That kind of sucks.
Don't disagree.
I would eliminate buys. Like if you got a crazy East Coast trip in your West Coast school, make your bye game, your FCS game, your recovery week.
So is there no room? There's no room to start on week 0 to start August 23rd, and even without the conference championship games, there's not enough.
We would have to remove buys or shorten the regular season to get to what I ultimately want. Because in the one that I not want, but what I created in this model, the way things work, if we start the week 0 in that earlier date, the regular season would end the week before Thanksgiving. So then the players get Thanksgiving off. Everybody gets to go home, go be with your families, do whatever the hell you want.
Full off week.
Yeah, it's an off week because let's be real, the NFL dominates that weekend anyway.
That's true, and they're only going to keep doing it as they continue to take over. Like, do we have a Thanksgiving weekend Saturday game coming soon?
I know they probably don't. We already?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they already are.
Obviously, they have Thursday. Aren't they moving to a Friday game now?
They've had Friday games the last few years. Yeah, they've got Black Friday games on Amazon. So they're already taking that over. So we would take that week off, and then the playoff would begin the following Friday night with 2 games. So Friday, December 5th, you've got the first 2 games. Then the other 6 games are all played that Saturday. The second round is the next week, and so on and so forth. So then the championship game would be played on December 27th. And also, so it's 2 days after Christmas. Everybody's home. Nobody's doing anything. Everybody's just watching it. And then, what was the other part of this?
And then the final would be on the 1st?
No. The title game's on the 27th. Sorry. Like the first would still be all the other bowl games. Like the Rose Bowl, if they don't want to be part of this, they could still play on New Year's Day. Those games would still all exist. But the other aspect that I didn't mention yet is the first 2 rounds will be on campus. And then the final 2 rounds will be at neutral sites. Whereas the semifinals, my idea would be you go back to your original 4 BCS bowls or whatever you want. Fiesta, Sugar, Rose, and
Peach.
No. The original ones. The Rose. Oh.
Orange.
Why? There we go. Sorry.
Yeah, come on, boys. Let's go.
Rose, orange. So
Orange Bowl. Okay.
It would rotate. It would rotate between those 4 every year, 2 each. They each get a semifinal, and the other 2 can host the regular game. If you don't want in, like you're the Rose Bowl, and you don't want to get rid of, New Year's Day, then you just don't get in, and then we go to the Cotton or the Peach, whoever wants it. And then the championship game would be auctioned off the same way the Super Bowl is. Neutral sites all across the country. Bid on a title game. You get to host it. There are so many indoor stadiums now that you can really play it anywhere you want across the country to keep it national. The title game might be in Minnesota. like a Super Bowl was in Minnesota. Chicago is going to have a roof stadium soon. It could be in Chicago. All these places would be eligible options to just move it around and kind of just generate buzz all across the country. And also, you'd get money because you'd be auctioning it off.
This is my my own personal response, just as a college football fan. I am in on the way that you have constructed your bracket, the way that the teams are selected, the way that the teams could be put in. I'm totally on board. I'm also in on starting maybe a week earlier. Actually making week 0 the true week 1. I'm kind of out on Thanksgiving, losing that as rivalry weekend. I think that there's something that reaches, like, as we continue to lose, what do the kids say? As we continue to lose recipes, like as we continue to lose our history of college football and our connection to it, there's something about everyone's home. And for not everyone, but for a lot of people, you went to school somewhere near your home, and going back because you're going to be home and going to the rivalry game, last game of the season, there is a familial atmosphere to some of those rivalry games Thanksgiving weekend that I think plays well into the holiday. I would not want to give that up personally, but that's just me as a college football fan.
I don't disagree with any of that, but another part of my plan was I was trying to.
You got to break some eggs. I mean, you're trying to make an omelet out here.
I'm trying to come up with something the television networks are going to want too.
Yeah,
because they don't like to generate as much money as possible out of these things, which is the goal for the networks, for the conferences, for everybody, because it is just a television event. You can't be going up against the NFL. You're not going to win that battle. So you have to try to limit all your cross, as much as possible, I think, to generate the most amount of income for this thing.
When you've got the Thanksgiving table and, like half the table went to one school and half the table went to another, and you're just chopping it up, getting ready for the big game that weekend.
You could still argue over the playoff though. Everybody, you're still going to be talking college football. The bracket will be out.
See, this is where my bias comes in. Ain't no way one of my family members went to a school that's going to the playoff. Okay. We're out here talking about who's going to keep the other team out of the postseason. Okay. I'm 6-5. You're 5-6. That is a blood feud right there.
Yeah. But you know what you and your cousin can still do? You know what you can still do? You could still bitch and moan about the fact that Alabama got in over some other ACC team.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Any other responses here? Any other thoughts from the crew?
Go ahead. Bud. I would tweak the scheduling to where we've been so locked into forcing the SEC to play 9 games. It's interesting because the ACC never comes up. They've only played 8, but I'm all for them going to 9. But what about if we all went to 8 and you had 3 non-conference games versus the other 3 Power 4?
Yeah.
How come no one ever talks about that? Like, it's always like, let's force them to go to 9. Well, if we had the opportunity to play more non-conference games, and like, that's where I think it would be a mandate. You'd have to play. I love the idea of mandating to be eligible for the playoffs. You have to play 10 Power 4 teams. Then as part of that, you have to play 1 from every other. Then you talk about getting a more input to put in our, spreadsheets and to figure out how these teams stack up against each other when we're trying to pick them. If you have more info based on play against other conferences, I think that'd be the one tweak I would make, is go down to 8 conference games, 3 non-cons against each of the other Power 4. And I appreciate what you say about the FCS, and I've always been a proponent of the FCS. I'd say keep the buys and get rid of the FCS altogether and just donate the money. Like, just give the money to them, because you'll make that much more from the gate, from having sellouts that are over the top, from TV money, from getting better matchups throughout the season.
The problems with that, because I did consider it, the problems with that are the Big 12 has 16 teams, the SEC has 16 teams, the ACC has 17 teams, and the Big 10 has 18. So you can't all schedule one from each conference, because then somebody's going to be getting screwed.
Right.
Like they're not going to be able to meet the eligibility requirements. So if we wanted, I guess we could do it when we go to, you have to play 9. But and also then who's the G5 playing in non-conference? They don't get a shot to actually boost their.
See, now if we're blowing this thing up, I'd probably have the G5 do their own playoff.
But see, this is sidetracking. Everybody arguing for the 5 and 11. I think that's what's going to happen in the long term over a 5 and 11. You're just going to see 2 super leagues form. Everybody's going to just kind of pile into 2 leagues.
I love the 8 idea. Honestly, like I think that's great. I don't like the SEC schedules are already harder than the Big Ten schedules playing 8. Like that's I don't think I need to see 9 games for that. I want more connectivity, and that way I think if you play more non-conference games against one another, you have less chance that you have a Bama Florida State situation, right? It's like, yeah, you know what, this conference proved that it actually was better. Whereas that year, like the SEC wasn't great. It was still really good, but it didn't actually prove it in that given year, that it was actually all that special. They laid a bunch of eggs in the non-conference. If you have more opportunities to do that, you can either show you're going to stomp those teams or you lay some more eggs. So I love the 8 idea. Tom, who do you think the most pushback would come from in this? Like who are the top 3 haters of this idea? Is it conferences, TV networks? What do you think?
I think the TV networks would love it. I think
ACC
that
and Big 12 would push back.
I think
the ACC knows it's dead, right? I mean, did you see like the details of the settlement stuff actually came out?
Yeah.
That's a short-term agreement, guys.
Yeah. 2031 and maybe sooner, but I think 2031 is the year we're going to see another massive shift.
Yeah. I mean, like Cal and Stanford, SMU aren't even eligible for the TV rating stuff. This is just like, hey,
But
I think there's parts that everybody would hate. I think the SEC and the Big Ten would hate being capped at 4, and I think the ACC and the Big 12 would hate not getting auto bids.
Right.
But that's part of the compromise. But going back to the scheduling, I wouldn't mind going back to 8 games. I'd compromise on that happily. The reason I went to 9 was just because I do feel like tradition-wise, these conferences are so huge. If you're only playing 8 games, you're going to be going a long time without seeing teams that are in your own conference.
But I think the Big Ten does this right, where some teams have a certain number of protected rivalries and other teams don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Like they stopped trying to force the Penn State-Michigan State rivalry because it wasn't
Rest
there.
in peace.
Right, exactly. Whereas the SEC, I've always seen this, like all the projected models that have been leaked out of the SEC office or come up with folks, they're like, oh, we each need to have 3. I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Okay? Like some SEC teams should have 0 or 1. Some might have 4. And if you do it that way, I think it actually does even out a lot more. Like Auburn's going to be a little bit tougher if they want to keep everybody they play. But all right, still got time for golf. So it can't be that tough, right? Whatever.
All right. Well, this is this again. The story's been written. It's gotten a lot of good reaction. We had
just 2 minor things to add to it. Still, the selection process will still feature a selection committee.
Oh, go.
But going to go back to some BCS roots here too. We'll also include computer polls and the AP poll.
I definitely think that from a modeling standpoint, 9 games makes that a lot worse because of the lack of connectivity between leagues. You need more, if you want this data to be better, you need more games between leagues. Otherwise, the way you do it, and this would make it a lot more accurate, and accurate models use this, but it pisses people off, is you would have to put a heavy emphasis on recruiting rankings. And that people go nuts about that. I understand why, but like if you're not going to have the connectivity between the leagues because you have a lack of non-conference games between them, then the most next predictive thing is how well your players were rated as high school recruits. Not really transfer recruits. I don't think that translates, but that's for another day.
The one final part is that the broadcast rights will be sold to multiple streaming or multiple outlets. It's not in one, people can't own it. They will sell them individually by rounds. And then also you get to the championship game, it'll be just like the Super Bowl. So if CBS, ESPN, and NBC or anybody else all have like parts of the playoff, they will rotate the title game every other year.
Love that.
Because that way it keeps one company from having way too much influence in how things go. And it just it keeps everybody far more involved in what everybody else is doing. Everybody has a reason to kind of work together.
No, I really like that. worried that's the least likely, but I really like it. I would love to see that be able to play out.
I think it'll be, if the way that this goes, I think it will be so expensive because I think it will generate so much additional revenue that one company won't be able to afford to buy it. In fact, if you look at things right now,
They
ESPN is already
TNT.
sub-licensing a bunch of these games to TNT because they way overbid for it to keep control of it.
You can check out the story on cbssports.com. We appreciate Tom sharing his master plan with us. Coming up on the other side, we all remember Jim Harbaugh and his comment about Ryan Day and born on third base. Well, maybe Ryan Day is not the only coach. Maybe he wasn't even born on third base. But what coaches are the most born on third base coaches? We'll get into all that and more next.
Name's Conrad Harrigan, family man. And if you cross my family, well, you'd better pray.
Mobland, new series streaming March 30th on Paramount Plus.
Finally, give me some Mobland. So good.
Yeah. Is it good? Okay.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. Not for the family, but like it's great.
Yeah.
You want to? Why is it wrong? I think it's great for kids. I think it teaches them how the world works.
It probably does.
We love hearing from you. And that's one of the things we like to do on Thursdays at this time of year. And Spotify comments has been a great place to be able to get new questions. This one comes from McCage35. He says, die-hard Hurricane fan here who despises Ohio State. Why would a Miami fan have beef with Ohio State? That's weird. I don't know. But why is Ryan Day
defense?
Yeah. Why is Ryan Day?
I just figured it out. Sorry, I was a little late.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's a little late to figure it out. Why is Ryan Day the only coach considered born on third base? McCage adds, Kirby took over a team that constantly won 10 games, and if Richt had the playoffs, he possibly could have made the championship, where Kirby wouldn't have made the championship without the playoffs in his first 2 appearances. Likewise, Dan Lanning took over a 2-time Pac-12 champion and new levels of recruiting after Mario left. To me, Kirby and Lanning are just like Day, he alleges, born on third base. So do you agree with his assessment of mentioning Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning? If yes, if no, who else would be added to that conversation?
I don't agree with Kirby. For years before Kirby showed up, we were talking about how Georgia was perennially underachieving based on what it was capable of doing. Not to say, I mean, winning 10 games was great. Mark Richt was not a bad coach, but he never broke through. Kirby showed up and they immediately broke through. I think it's a much different program now than it was previously. Lanning, I'll give you.
Lanning for sure. It's hard to differentiate between that and what the Day situation is. Oh, the expectations to Ohio State are higher, I think. Let me see.
I think there's an easy one.
I think there's a very easy one too.
Lincoln Riley. What he inherited to Oklahoma was in it, and he wasn't able to punch through where they wanted him to go. I think Lincoln Riley's a good one. I don't think this has to be a negative. I don't think it's a knock against a coach.
No, in many cases, it's a compliment to the program. Like a fan of one of these programs should believe in that.
And a lot of discussion around Scott Frost and him taking the Nebraska job. Was he ready? Like a lot of these coaches waited for the perfect job. Like Kirby was just kind of waiting and waiting. He was coming up every year as a great defensive mind who was kind of on that cycle, took the right job at the right time when it was ready, and he recognized that, which was great. And his alma mater, like it all worked out perfect.
Who else?
I have one that's very ironic because who is the question based on?
Ryan Day.
Who made that quote? Who said Jim Ryan Harbaugh. Day was born on third base? Who replaced Jim Harbaugh at Michigan?
Jerome Moore.
Born on third base. And so far, he went back to second.
I was going to say he's about to get stuck in a pickle if he's not careful pretty soon.
There are some interesting ones where, from a talent on the roster standpoint, we're definitely born on third base, but the guy before wasn't really winning with that talent.
What about
like Bob Stoops at Oklahoma would be one for me. Mm-hmm. Like John Blake was an awesome recruiter,
but a 5-6 coach.
Yeah, he couldn't coach a lick, but man, he could recruit.
R.I.P. My guy, John Blake.
as Carolina fans know, right? But I mean, like the roster Bob Stoops took over, he won that national title, 2 years later?
Yeah.
And like a lot of that was recruited. There was no portal back then. Like a lot of that roster was recruited by John Blake. I'll give you Urban Meyer. Like the guy that preceded Urban.
Zook.
Guess what? Ron Zook. Again, awesome recruiter. Terrible coach. Well, not terrible, but like for that level, really not a great coach. But man, he could definitely recruit. So
yes, he
could. That would make sense. Do you count Les Miles? Like taking over for
At
Saban?
LSU?
Yeah.
I think you can count that, yeah.
With context and perspective, I think so. The further we got away from it, the more kind of rocky or up and down things seem to get. Especially because Saban, helped the university and the athletic department find religion in terms of like, this is what we need to do in order to win at the level that we can win at as the flagship football program in the state of Louisiana.
Don't you think it's a little different because he wasn't born there? Like he had already been a head coach. Like I was kind of first year head coaches.
Oh, okay.
That's the way I perceived it when you're born, when you get the first opportunity as the best one.
Yeah.
What about Marcus Freeman?
Yeah.
Dame fans will tell you that
yes,
the program was in shambles before he got there. Just
even though they were in the college,
apart.
they were in the 4-team playoff. In
Brian Kelly, they were
2018.
destitute under Brian Kelly. Marcus
they would say he was
all.
born on second, and now he's he's advanced the third.
CFB Hurts had to go. Mark Helfrich, what he inherited from Chip Kelly, that was a really good one. That's a good one.
I feel like
Larry
every Oregon coach since Chip Kelly is pretty much in it, going on third base.
Another good one. Who did
Larry Coker for sure.
And he went over.
Helfrich got thrown out trying to steal home. He got a little too far over his skis.
Just went too fast. It's like,
just went too fast.
Who followed Pete Carroll? It was
Lane.
USC.
oh,
It was Lane.
A couple times.
yeah.
Somebody in this is a bold one. Somebody in the tailgate mentioned that Josh Heupel has been born on third base twice. Takes over UCF right after the 13-0 season and takes over a Tennessee team that had talent.
No,
it just
Tennessee
had a lot.
Tennessee was not a third base situation. No. Unless the base was on fire. Like, no.
Who followed Peterson at Boise? Was that Brian Harsin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, inheriting it from Chris Peterson's a pretty good spot to be in.
And Peterson inherited it from Hawkins, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but Peterson at least put in enough time that if he was born on third base, at least he showed himself to be capable of that opportunity.
Lots of coaches are born on third base.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to at least get yourself to the point of getting the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah.
But
Jimmy Lake. He got picked off third, but
yeah, I was about to say, what's my base? Was Jimmy Lake running outside of the base paths? Is that why he just got called out?
Yeah,
yeah. That would definitely be one right there. We appreciate the question. DK, do you have to bounce?
Yeah, I got to get it.
Before you go, I just want to look you in the eye and say, not only is my answer absolutely, but I've thought about it. I've thought about it too much. Have a good weekend.
Further research.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another great question from our Spotify comments. It is focused on Brian Kelly. Speaking of, this came from Mark. Mailbag, love the pod. I want to know why Brian Kelly is not getting the benefit of the doubt with LSU's offensive line. They have recruited very well at the position the past few years and supplemented with veterans in the portal. One can argue that no head coach has produced more NFL offensive linemen in his career than Brian Kelly. If Garrett Nussmeier makes a similar jump as Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow did as year 2 full-time starters, and the defense takes another step in year 2 of Blake Baker, look out for LSU. So Brian Kelly, benefit of the doubt. They lose 2 tackles to the NFL draft. Do you feel like LSU is not getting a fair shake? But I'm going to go to you first.
They are like top 10 in the national title odds. I think this podcast probably talked more Nuss than any other, especially leading into last year. We were driving the Nuss bus, and I thought it worked out okay, but like he had some games where he threw way too many picks. I mean, they could certainly hit, but O-line is a question.
Right. I mean,
I think the problem with this question is like you're asking them to assume that the guys they recruited are going to step in and be their tackles. I don't know if they will. We'll see. Like, it's possible, but we don't know that it will work out. Like, that's
well. Do you
if
believe?
do you
believe the reputation that he like Notre Dame to the question?
Yes, I do.
Churned out NFL offensive linemen. Like, is that a thing that someone who
and they're still doing it, and they did it under Lou Holtz, and they did it even under some other coaches as well, not named BK.
That's what I'm saying. So like
that's a Notre Dame thing. Yeah. Did Cincinnati churn out NFL offensive linemen, stay with me, relative to the level of school within the conference they were at when BK took them over?
Jason Kelsey.
Sure. Right. I mean,
Jason Kelsey.
I also I'm not.
I don't even know if he played for him. I'm just throwing that out there.
Like, Perkins is still on the team, so I think they still feel pressure to try to find a role for Perkins. Even though I don't think he fits what they want to actually do. So, I mean, how many games are they going to do that still? Maybe he's awesome. I could be totally wrong about that. I don't see it.
Tom?
I mean, you lost some pretty important players on that offensive line, one of whom was a top 5 pick. It's a question until it isn't. You can give them the benefit of the doubt all you want, but it's a question until it isn't. Like, did they recruit well enough on that area to make you think that they'll probably be fine? Yeah, but am I going to assume that they're going to be perfect or elite? No, not until I see it.
Yeah,
Will Campbell was like a 4-year or 3-year starter at left tackle, and then he went in the top 5. Those guys don't just show up, and you don't just replace that guy right away. It's very difficult to do that, even if you go to the portal, because the guys in the portal aren't as good as the guys they're replacing usually.
Agreed.
Especially when they're a top 5 pick.
Yeah, LSU also has, based on like looking at last year and sort of using it to, if we're going to talk about benefit of the doubt, LSU had more talent than their performance indicated last season. There were games that LSU lost when they were the more talented team, more than one game. And there were games where LSU looked really bad, like for a half, or then maybe for a whole game, like against Alabama, when you let them come into your house and just absolutely run through you. So that's I don't know if I'm in a benefit of the doubt spot right now. They have enough talent to win the Southeastern Conference, but they were all detailed right there. If the offensive linemen step up, if Nuss makes a similar jump to Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow, and if the defense takes another step forward, sure, yeah.
I will go out on a limb and say that if Nuss plays at the Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels level, then they're going to be good. Yes. I might be out here alone, but I don't care. I'm a man on an island, and I
big stretches. We're working big stretches. If Nuss can do that. All right, one last one. This one's coming from the tailgate. You guys have been awesome, rocking with us all through the episode. We appreciate your commentary. Before we got in, 10:19 a.m. Graham says, "I'd like to know Tom's thoughts on Kirk Ferentz saying he, quote, expects to sign another contract extension with no plans of retirement in the near future and actually enjoys the challenges of NIL." That's right. We had a nice little Kirk Ferentz profile hit our desk in the last 48 hours or so. Curious, Tom, what'd you make of Kirk sending the smoke signals that he's got zero plans of stepping down anytime soon?
Well, I know you didn't read it, Chip, but if you remember, I wrote my Big Ten best and worst case scenarios like 2 weeks ago, and both the best and worst case scenarios for Iowa in 2025 ended with Kirk Ferentz signing a 10-year contract extension. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear him say it. We'll see. I think if he's willing to adapt to it. And to this point, I haven't seen any signs that say Kirk Ferentz isn't willing to adapt to the model the way that things are working. They haven't been shy about using the portal to try to fix their holes or what they think are their holes. I maintain Iowa's biggest problem in the last few years is they aren't developing the same physical specimens that they had been for a very long time. I feel like that part has dropped off. That to me is a big worry. But I think as far as everything else, Kirk Ferentz is willing and able to do it. So as long as he's willing to keep going, cool.
Absolutely. Chat wants to know remaining summer schools. We do have remaining summer schools, actually. Florida on Saturday and Indiana on Sunday. I think we have Miami coming on maybe tomorrow as well. Those might be delayed slightly, but I really wanted to have the goal this year to get them out before media days start. That's why we pushed all the Big 12 ones out a little bit earlier, and obviously SEC and Big 10 media days start slightly later. So yeah, we'll have them all done. I think that was how many did we get? We got a bunch, 70 something. Anyway, yeah, and yeah, there's some chance we get like a couple later on, but no, didn't do UNC, didn't do Texas Tech. Not intentionally, just and Jared's a great guy. Like, always love having him on. Our schedules we tried a couple of times, like it just didn't match up this year.
Didn't have the money to afford it.
Didn't do Purdue and didn't do Baylor. So,
but listen, Bud, all of us, the Cover 3 tailgate, us here on the show, we do appreciate all of the hard work you put into summer school. It is an irreplaceable and valuable piece of everyone's preseason preparation.
Miami is Friday, by the way.
Do you want to do the Purdue summer school right now?
No, man, I'm in like a good headspace. I don't really want to.
No, just ask me how I think the season's going to go.
How do you think you're going to be?
We are contractually obligated to play 12 games this year, and we have every intent to play them.
This is why we don't need bye weeks. They're built in.
It's Purdue.
I love the hire, and I think it's good long term, but Purdue fans, basketball starts in November.
Are they going to be good this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Purdue Boilermakers. Is that too much of a mouthful right there? They are the Big Ten bye team.
Hughes is sending Ricky Collins and not Steve Angeli. Is that we want to keep Ricky Collins happy move, or is that a Ricky Collins is actually the starter move?
I do not look into.
I did appreciate Dion's honesty on this.
Yeah.
Why'd you bring both quarterbacks? He says, because I don't know which one's going to be starting.
I'm a little surprised, like in the college fantasy space again, and I do think Salter's going to have a bounce back year because I think he was just very unhappy last year, and I think Liberty was unhappy with him. He didn't want to be there, like he couldn't transfer to Auburn. I think it was academics. But if you don't think Colorado's going to play both kids this year, I really would. From an image management and also like selling the program standpoint, I don't think you sign Juju and have him not play at all. I think they're going to give him series and drives and stuff.
That could
but Salter's kind of being drafted like he's the guy and is not going to be subbed out.
There's a lot bigger. We will be having our Big 12 win totals at the end of this month. That's right. Win totals will start after we get back from Big 10 media days. We'll probably get into that more, but at Colorado, drafting in fantasy suggests that you also feel really good about all the wide receivers that are coming up, because who's going to catch the passes? Or maybe you just think that he's going to go total wing T. Maybe that's the fantasy upside, but we can get into all that in a little bit. All right. Next week, Monday, we're going to get things rocking and rolling. SEC Media Days takes over the college football news cycle. We'll be giving you what we're looking for, some reaction to the early conversation on the microphone, more on Wednesday. And then again, the big old bag of mail is open. Big 10 Media Days, Cover 3 on site in Las Vegas the following week. And then July the 28th, win totals season begins. We will begin with the Big 12 there on July 28th. And that's when we're going to be counting them up and asking the most important question: how many games are you going to win this fall? So make sure you come, make sure you subscribe, and you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip _Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya.